नमस्ते यतिराजाय विवेकानंद सूरये सच्चित सुख स्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे. Dear Swami Atmapriyananda ji, the Pro-Chancellor, Swami Sarvottomananda ji, the Vice Chancellor, very dear Professor Basab Chaudhuri, formerly Vice Chancellor of West Bengal State University and now the Principal of Heritage Institute of Technology, Kolkata, and Senior Director Education, Kalyan Bharati Trust, brother monks and brahmacharis, learned members of the faculty and very dear students. At the outset, I must thank Swami Atmapriyananda ji and Swami Sarvottomananda ji for kindly having remembered me on this great occasion, even though in virtual mode. As I begin, I would like to impress upon our students, teachers, educational administrators, the social workers, bureaucrats, politicians, and on top of all, policy makers who are at the helm of affairs so far as education is concerned, to study Swami Vivekananda's philosophy and concept of education and try to imbibe his life-giving ideas and imbue the education policy of the day with those immortal ideas. Then only we can save our family, society, the state and the country, and for that matter the entire mankind, from the credibility deficit we are suffering from. I do not know whether you have gone through or even heard of Noah Harari and his works. Harari is a historian of international eminence from Israel. Noah Harari deals with the medieval history of mankind. Two of his books are among the world's best sellers. One is Sapiens, a brief history of humankind, and the other Homo Deus, a brief history of tomorrow. While analyzing the story of human development and evolution from the historical perspective, Harari mentions that a man as single individual is not much superior to other abhuman animals. Naturally, the question arises, then what exactly distinguishes man from abhuman or subhuman creatures? The answer is, man possesses the capacity to think, to believe, and to work unitedly, and these qualities of man makes him superior to other species in the animal kingdom. For example, the ants can also move in band, but they cannot establish a classless society, socialistic society, by declaring war and ultimately killing the queen ant, and for that matter, the same is the case with the bees. They move unitedly, but they can't kill the queen bee and establish an egalitarian society. Harari gives another example regarding use of money. Suppose you give a piece of paper which is a currency to a chimpanzee and you ask for a pair of bananas in lieu thereof, or tell the chimpanzee that by showing this piece of paper means currency, it will get 5 bananas. These words do not matter much for him. But man takes your words seriously because man believes in the story of heaven and hell, the story of a classless society, the story of a share market crash, the story of nationalism, or in the gospel of universal brotherhood, because man has the faculty of thinking and believing. But an abhuman creature doesn't have. So Harari says, trust, faith, conviction, concentration, these are the virtues which make you a true man. We find in him a resonance of Swami Vivekananda's voice. If we look at the history of the mankind, we find three common elements or dangers, namely famine, pandemic, and war. Even in the 21st century, can you really touch your heart and say that you could conquer these dangers? One has to answer this question. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that we couldn't make any progress in this direction. We have done wonderfully well in certain areas of material and secular developments. But despite all such developments, we have not been able as yet to come out of the threats of famine, pandemic, and war. For example, the COVID-19 pandemic, we all know what havoc is being wrought all over the world by this minuscule deadly virus. We still hear the rumblings of war. As long as there shall be animality in man, these rumblings of war will be heard. Even standing at the present scenario, can we claim that we have conquered the threat of famine and hunger fully? Perhaps not. Well, things have certainly changed for the better on all the fronts. But we have miserably failed to manifest our divinity as Swami Vivekananda wanted of us through our actions and expressions. Let's recall Chekhov, who said, if you find a gun in the first scene of an opera, in the third scene, you may be sure that bullets will come out of this gun. Standing on the onset of the third decade of the 21st century, we are happy to note that we have to a large extent come out of the scenario that Russian playwright Chekhov scripted for us. But we must note, although we have considerably reduced the tension of hunger, war, and so on, new problems are raising their ugly heads. Now the problems are, to name a few, overeating, obesity, ecological imbalance, climate change, lack of empathy, slackness in family bondage, mere howling around without any flavor of the soul, cruelty of man, change of values, change of social psyche, and so on. Some people even do not hesitate to name the modern age as age of surveillance capitalism. Now people are not content with mere skill development, but they are out in search of creating artificial intelligence. Robotic engineering and computers are working miracles. But all these exercises remind us what a Bengali writer says, Bigyan diyeche beg, kere niyeche abeg. Science has given us motion and snatched every emotion from us. In 2013, Google launched a project named Calico Project, which vows to discover the ways and means to conquer old age and even death. We have done very well in our materialistic search, but we are as much lagging behind in our search of souls. This is why Vivekananda said Western science must be coupled with Eastern Vedanta. Friends, by virtue of being a product of this great institute, RKMVERI, you must reserve a space in your heart for values for Vivekananda. Please try to listen to him and follow him. Your life will be blessed. If you really imbibe an ounce of Swami Vivekananda's life-giving ideas, you will not only be better men and women, you will be better in everything that you do. Please allow me to quote a couple of paragraphs from the vision document of National Education Policy 2020. I mention this because I have a feeling that policymakers had Vivekananda in their minds while drafting the National Education Policy 2020. I quote, "Higher education plays an extremely important role in promoting human as well as societal well-being and in developing India as envisioned in its constitution, a democratic, just, socially conscious, cultured and human nation, upholding liberty, equality, fraternity and justice for all. Higher education significantly contributes to a sustainable livelihoods and economic development of the nation. As India moves towards becoming a knowledge economy and society, more and more young Indians are likely to aspire for higher education. Given the 21st century requirements, quality higher education must aim to develop good, thoughtful, well-rounded and creative individuals. It must enable an individual to study one or more specialized areas of interest at a deep level and also develop character, ethical and constitutional values, intellectual curiosity, scientific temper, creativity and a spirit of service. A quality higher education must enable personal accomplishment and enlightenment, constructive public engagement and productive contribution to the society. It must prepare students for more meaningful and satisfying lives and work roles and enable economic independence. At the societal level, higher education must enable the development of an enlightened, socially conscious, knowledgeable and skilled nation that can find and implement robust solutions to its own problems. Higher education must form the basis for knowledge creation and innovation, thereby contributing to a growing national economy. The purpose of quality higher education is therefore more than the creation of greater opportunities for individual employment. It represents the key to more vibrant, socially engaged, cooperative communities and a happier, cohesive, cultured, productive, innovative, progressive and prosperous nation." Unquote. The National Education Policy 2020 envisions a complete overhaul and re-energizing the higher education system to overcome the challenges and thereby deliver high quality higher education with equity and inclusion. This is why Swami Vivekananda said, I quote, "The ideal therefore is that we must have the whole education of our country, spiritual and secular, in our own hands, and it must be on national lines through national methods as far as practical." Unquote. We believe that the educational philosophy of Swami Vivekananda, worked out in action by many stalwarts like Sister Nivedita, Swami Nirvedananda, Swami Tejosananda, Swami Vimuktananda, Swami Sambhavananda, Swami Punnananda, Swami Lokeshwarananda and others of our order, has something vital to offer to the nation. At the same time, we have to introspect and find out how far we have understood and put into practice Swamiji's ideas on education. In recent times, Swami Atmapriyananda also has done some original work in the field of education as envisaged by Swamiji Maharaj. Certainly, some good work has been done, but a lot remains to be achieved. Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda Educational and Research Institute, an institution of national eminence, which is progressing vividly with the ideas and ideals as envisioned by the great Swami Vivekananda, set the highest standards of multidisciplinary teaching and research, and hosts scholars and students from across backgrounds and cultures. RKMVERI is aimed not only at nurturing the rich legacies to world heritage and preserving them for posterity, but also at putting them to new enhanced usages through research and development. In fine, I pray to Sri Ramakrishna, the great Master, Holy Mother Sarada Devi, my mother, your mother, the Divine Mother, the Universal Mother, and our leader, Swami Vivekananda, for the continued progress and excellence of RKMVERI, and that it grows from strength to fulfill the vision of Swamiji Maharaj. Before I wrap up, I extend my greetings and best wishes to Swami Sarvottomananda, who takes charge as the Vice Chancellor of Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda Educational and Research Institute on substantive basis from this auspicious foundation day of RKMVERI. May Swamiji Maharaj bless him. Once again, I offer my devoted pranams to Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother Sarada Devi, and Swami Vivekananda. May their blessings shower on all of us here. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Peace, Peace, Peace. Wish you all the best. Thank you so much.